What's up, everyone? Drew from Misfit Athletics here. You are listening to a special edition Misfit Project podcast. Sherb, Ted, and I hopped on a plane out to Denver, Colorado to meet the man behind Pure Spectrum CBD and to announce our partnership with Pure Spectrum. Hope you guys enjoy. Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning into episode 34 of the Misfit Project. I am your host, Drew Crandall, and joining Ted, Sherb, and I today is actually both our new podcast sponsor and the guest of episode 34. We are stoked to announce that this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Pure Spectrum CBD. This is actually a product that Ted and I personally used prior to having sort of a chance run-in at the CrossFit Games. We met Linda from Pure Spectrum because she was squinting in the sun, and Jen decided to give her a pair of Misfit sunglasses, and then she sort of asked, what should I be doing here? Like, what's the best, event to watch and all that? And she was like, wait, you guys own Misfit? And then Ted was like, wait, you own Pure Spectrum? Like, I love your products. So it was really cool. And what we sort of decided to do from there is let's get on a plane, let's get out to Colorado, let's meet the crew, let's find the backstory, and let's get people the information that they need so that they can decide whether CBD is the right choice for them. So starting today, you can head to purespectrumcbd.com and use the code word MISFIT to save a little dough. It's always nice when you're trying out a new product to get a discount on it. I'll end my rant now and welcome the CEO of Pure Spectrum, Brady Bell, to the podcast. How's it going, man?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit yesterday, and you were telling us that grew up in Kansas, had the hoop dreams kind of situation. How do you make it from that to this?
A lot of trials and tribulations. I started down the path to play professional basketball, go overseas, had an opportunity to go overseas. And life just kept pushing me, away from basketball and into the entrepreneur world. So make a long story short, stay 10,000 feet. I was in the real estate business from 2001 to 2010. And then obviously with the real estate crash, gave me a little bit of extra motivation to find something new, and decided to pack my bags and come out to Colorado. And came out here in 2011. It's been a journey since.
So with the CBD itself, what's that personal journey for you? We talked about it yesterday on you guys' podcast. We all sort of have that story that kind of pulls us in a little bit more, something that, an effect on ourselves that can help us, realize that this, is kind of a magical thing, and it's a good thing to put out there.
I come from a very strict religious family. And so when I first had my very first experience with cannabis, I was always taught that it was really bad.
Yeah.
But like you guys are saying, I found something medicinal in it. But with, I'm a smart guy, but with all the education that I had, I was supposed to deem this product as bad.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So again, going back to the medicinal side, when I started seeing what it was doing for me with my tic syndrome, but it was also illegal, right?
Yeah.
So that was a big problem with my family. So to me, it became a dual purpose journey, I guess, is if this thing is making me feel better, and it comes from a plant and it's natural, why is it illegal? Right. And so to me, it became a kind of a path of principle, not just healing me and healing other people. It's like there's too many lives that have been destroyed because of cannabis and the propaganda. And I actually was a part of that, And so again, that was kind of my motivation behind everything.
Yeah. So one of the things that you guys are doing an excellent job of is you're bringing these people in on the kind of sponsored athlete side and saying, this isn't a fad, this isn't a gimmick. Look at these people. These are, very professional people that take, what they do extremely seriously, and they're using this because it's helping them. And that can do so much to erase the stigma.
Right.
Because, at the end of the day, one of the things people want to know is what is CBD, and what's the difference between CBD and THC? A lot of people really don't know that.
And the crazy thing is most people delivering the message don't know it. Right. And so it's convoluted from the highest level of information being passed down. So to me, that's why we're in this conflicted era. But why I chose athletes is being a former athlete.
Yeah.
Cannabis was always, and again, I use cannabis as hemp and marijuana, right? They're all from the same species. But cannabis was illegal through USADA and WADA as a sports enhancing drug. Because of the recovery, all the recovery properties that has in it, it gave that athlete an extra, it just gave him the ability to perform at a higher level. And so that's why it's always been illegal. So when most people don't understand that, they're like, what? Yeah. Marijuana was a sports enhancing drug? And it's like, yeah, it's classified the same as steroids.
Yep.
So if we can take these properties away, the THC properties and getting high and keeping that out of the realm, to me, that's why CBD made a lot of sense.
Right.
And it's been effective. It's been, we've been proven what we thought.
Definitely. So Ted, you've been using CBD for a couple of years now?
Yeah. So I've always, my whole life, dealt with depression and anxiety, and listening to various podcasts, Rogan or whatever, and there's a lot of talk out there about how it can be effective for those types of things. So my first introduction was a CBD vape pen from you guys a couple of years ago, and I just found that it allowed me to kind of calm the things that happen in your brain when you're sitting there trying to concentrate on something and your brain doesn't want to let you.
Right.
So for me, it's always been super helpful for sleep and super helpful for like anti-anxiety. A couple of pulls on the pen, and I've got 3 hours of solid focus that I can really get.
Is that the product you use primarily, is the vape pen?
That's the one that I prefer, honestly. I think that I can feel the effect more immediately, and it seems to happen the fastest.
Right. And I like hearing that from an athlete's perspective. There's a lot of people like, oh my God, an athlete vaping, that's horrible. Actually,
they smoke and still do their sport.
How does that happen? So it's really interesting. Has all the media here lately with all the issues with vape, has it challenged you at all on your thinking with vape?
I mean, it certainly forces you to kind of take pause. Right. But talking with Seth, talking with Linda, talking with your team, it seems like you guys really know what's going into the product, and you can stand by and say, this is definitely a safe product to use.
Right.
I have asthma as well. So, and the vaping doesn't affect that at all. I feel zero effect on my lungs.
And that's actually the sour diesel cartridge. We formulated it for asthma.
Really?
Because it has the pinene and limonene, which are two terpenes that are good for asthma. It opens up your bronchodilators. So if I have an asthma attack, that's the only time that I really vape is during that moment.
Well, I'll have to pick some more of that up.
And it's just the super lemon haze and the sour diesel are the two that are good for that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I definitely have the same exact experience. I find that especially for some reason for the sleep, I notice the biggest difference when when I use the vape before sleep. Mm-hmm. Like I just sort of, a lot of people will say I'm taking it and I think I'm recovering, but I don't feel it because they expect, oh no, it's the hemp plant, it's what's going to happen to me, and they expect to like sit down and just be, whatever. And I find that works really well. I do, however, find that the tincture, I do that in the morning. Mm-hmm. And like for me, for the longest time, I always considered myself like a super quiet person in like social situations, especially like the more the group would grow.
Right.
And that's just essentially, later on you get a little bit older, you identify that as social anxiety. It's just, that many people cause you to kind of shut down a little bit. So, when you're working in a company where there's a lot of people around, I walk out of my office and there might be 40 people in the gym. Doing that in the morning, I've noticed a difference with that as well. So
it has a longer half-life as well. So before I got into the space, we worked with University of Colorado and their head, the Regent Emeritus at their neuro department. And so we had 100 people that volunteered, signed up, and we did blood tests on them every 15 minutes. Some of them had just THC in their system. Some of them had isolated CBD. Some of them had full spectrum, CBD. Some of them had nothing. And we just kind of watched what they did in their body. And the tincture had is like a small rolling hill in Kansas. It was this very gradual uptake, stayed up there for quite a while, and then got out. And so we always tell people, if you're looking for a elongated period of relief,
right,
that's the way to go.
And that makes sense too, because I'm thinking that's my perspective. I might take it in the morning while I'm at home, and then I'm staying at the gym, all the way through, 5:30, that sort of thing. And I still notice those effects.
And the vaping has the quickest uptake, so
Yeah.
it breaks your blood-brain barrier faster than any delivery system.
So that makes sense that you would feel it kind of almost immediately.
It has like a less absorption rate, but a higher uptake. So it's kind of like an acetate versus an inthanate, really quick. So, yeah.
Cool. One of the things that you guys are doing that is also going to, keep talking about the stigma with this, but the knock on CBD is that it is not regulated. Mm-hmm. So it's like people can put whatever they want in their products. And it's kind of funny because the feeling around here is you sort of agree.
100%.
And you
It's
are
Wild West.
and you are cool with the FDA getting involved and,
Yes.
and like essentially saying we don't have anything to hide. We're actually, it's the opposite of that. We want people to know this is exactly what's going into our product. I mean, you guys know where it's coming from specifically,
right.
With the farms, you guys are working with the local farmers. How did you guys get to that mindset? Because it feels like that's not the case with a lot of the community outside of, this space.
I look at it like we've been given an opportunity to do something correct that has been not correct for so many years and so many decades. And so I see there's so much money to be made and there's so much good to be poised from this.
Yeah.
Why screw it up? Why cut corners to make just a little bit more money when the profits are stupid anyway?
You're finally having this opportunity to open a door that's been closed for so long. Why not open it and do it the right way so that door stays open instead of
100%.
opens up and then closes back down because things were not regulated or products were inferior or getting someone hurt or sick or something like that.
Yeah, and it's like at the end of the day, I'm not a person that believes in propaganda or whatever. There's that's out there, and there's been things that have done incorrectly.
Right.
But if we do one thing wrong, or somebody gets sick, or somebody dies, they're going to come down on us hard because you really think that our government or the people at the highest level want all this to be out there? No, because they've been telling everybody for the past 2 years that it's bad.
Right.
So I don't personally ever want to give the regulators anything to tarnish what we've been doing. And so I look at it as like if it's a little longer process, a little less profit, I'm all for it. But we need regulation and a closed loop system within our industry and self-regulating as well.
For sure.
There must be a part of you that you use the product too, so you want to know that what you're using is a solid, good product.
100%, right? When we go to the store, we buy certain foods because we know how it was, if it's beef or chicken, how it was raised, what hormones, no hormones, whatever it is. Same thing in our industry where people think a molecule is a molecule. And what I always use is the egg scenario. Like I eat raw eggs every morning. I don't cook my eggs, so I have to know that
Rocky Balboa style.
I drink 6 eggs every morning. Right. So I can't ever have any bad eggs. So I go in there and it's like, okay, I can buy these a dozen. That's $8.99. Yep. All right, the one over here has 60 eggs for $10.99. Well, I know there's a big difference in those eggs and how they were raised, and people are just now starting to understand on the hemp side that there's big differences in how the crops are managed, and there's a lot of heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides, insecticides in product. And when you extract that product, the concentration level, it just magnifies. So if it's not done right at the very beginning, it's just a convoluted mess as that process continues. So
obviously a big factor in the green rush in Colorado has been the fact that it was legalized here, and a little bit more liberal in the Denver area, that sort of thing. But just guessing, I feel like this sort of, when we're looking out the window at, beautiful trees and mountains and all that, wouldn't it make sense for CBD to come from a place like this with the soil and, it's kind of hard for bad water to run up the mountain and that sort of thing.
And so the thing that the hemp plant has that most plants don't have these properties is phytoremediation ability. So it actually pulls any impurities from the soil and balances out the soil. So say China, where we get a lot of our, we grow the world's most hemp, I think, out there. Mm-hmm. So they're an industrialized nation, right? And so people from China won't use CBD from China because they know how bad it is.
Pulling all this stuff.
But then we have everybody here in the United States that's importing crates, of kilos of product coming from China because it's cheaper. Right. And it's like when the people from China won't even use our product, but we're out here selling it. It's time to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what am I doing? Am I here to help people? Or am I here for greed.
There's probably not a lot of transparency within those companies selling that product either.
No.
They probably don't say voluntarily, oh, this came from China.
But what they do is, have you guys ever watched the maple syrup heist on Netflix?
No, that sounds amazing.
Go watch that.
Maple syrup.
So what happened was China's byproduct from rice is it's like a synthetic sugar. It's their waste from all the rice that they cultivate. And what they did is they started making synthetic maple syrup, and so they completely disrupted Canada's maple syrup market. And so we would put all these embargoes on them and not allow them to import, export, whatever. Well, they started shipping it to different countries, and so China would ship, say, all this stuff to like where was one of their bigs? I think it was like Norway, I think, and then they would ship it into Canada. Right, and
really was Norway,
and so they would have it there, and they said, "We're bringing it in from this country. We're not bringing it in from China." And so, what's happened in the hemp space? And honestly, someone should write a book about it. I won't mention the company that did it, but I know they profited about $300-400 million, and that's what they did. They followed that same business model, and we're bringing stuff in from it was Greenland, Denmark, Spain, but they were housing it over there. Wow. And then sending it here. So it's a mess, man. That's why we need regulation.
Yeah, for sure.
So our audience, especially within the Misfit Project, I would say is a decent chunk of people that are just looking for what can this product do for me on a daily basis. And then there's a large group of people that's like, all right, I want to know if this is going to make, me run faster, jump higher, that sort of thing. So on the lifestyle side, we've seen the actual like science and government trials when it comes to like epilepsy and some very, serious situations. Not to say that mental health isn't serious or anti-inflammatory, but on that lifestyle side, what are the things that come to mind for you if someone was asking why they should take this?
I always first tell them to research the endocannabinoid system and get a baseline understanding of what this system in our body is, and why CBD has the potential to help this all these different potential elements from headache to cancer, and it's all within our regulatory system. And so when you tell somebody, my first barrier that I had with individuals, and especially you guys in the CrossFit community, is the CrossFit community is very intelligent, right? Like when you look at the psychographics and the demographics of who the CrossFit audience is, it's quite remarkable, right? Everybody's very educated. And when you start talking to another person about, hey, you have this system in your body that's cannabis stimulates it, they're like, what are you guys fucking talking about? Right? That to me is the hard part. So when you get over the selling aspect of it and have them go do their own research, to me, that's what's opened up the doors for us, because again, it's like you go do your research, you see the potential, you go out and try it. And then you see it's rest, recovery, balance, and you bring your body back to homeostasis, which at the end of the day, 30-some% of our lives we're used sleeping.
Right.
So if you can enhance that period and actually compound the recovery aspects, it's only going to put you in a position to be a better athlete, right? Because that's to me, the difference between me and the people that made it, why I'm sitting here and playing on the court, is those individuals that had the ability to keep going. The bodies weren't breaking down as much, or if they did, they could recuperate fast. I didn't have that luxury, so it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole basis for the Misfit Project is low barrier to entry, natural. Like, what are these things that we can do that have been all around us the whole time?
Right.
Going outside, getting vitamin D, getting fresh air, being around people that you care about, people that you like, diet, stress management, and we start to go down this list, and we both take the fact that this is a plant, like literally a plant, and it affects every category that we teach people about, like each and every one. That's when you can get into, okay, this is something that could be a really positive effect on your lifestyle. And then on the performance side, for me, what I think about all the time is the stress that's on the physical stress and the mental stress that's on the athletes that we work with. Like anyone that's outside of the CrossFit community, it's really hard to comprehend what these athletes are up to. It's mind blowing how often they train, how hard they train.
You guys are the most conditioned athlete next to Division I wrestler, in my opinion.
It's it's absolutely nuts. And what people don't realize is that if you stay in the stress state physically, there's a pretty good chance you're just naturally going to be mentally stressed.
Right.
And then they're worried about a lot of things. They're worried about the Open coming up. They're worried about, this competition, that competition, and all of this stress here. And, all I think of is CBD can go straight into, influencing the parasympathetic nervous system while an athlete is supposed to be down.
You said that very well, by the way.
Supposed to be in an anabolic state, right?
Right.
Because everything else is just beating the crap out of
And we
themselves.
and the thing is, like a lot of people in the very beginning days, they were like, I didn't feel anything from your product. I'm not going to take it again. And then 5-6 days later, they come in, they're like, you know what? After I got off your product, this is what I started noticing. And it's the healing properties, again, like you said earlier, you don't physically feel them, but they're there. And we carry these stresses with us every day that we're not even aware of, and so that's why I like it and take it in the morning, because it balances me out. I'm not an asshole yelling at everybody. Puts me on a good playing field.
Right. And it's funny because I know that this will work so well for our highest level athletes because they're so meticulous they know exactly how many, pull-ups they did on a workout X amount of months ago. So they're the type of athletes that are going to feel it.
Right.
And they're going to be able to help you guys and us deliver this message because they're going to say like, oh yeah, I definitely notice a difference. Whereas someone else who has so many life factors, our athletes, it's like eat, sleep, train. That's about it for a lot of them. Some of them coach CrossFit classes.
It's like eat, train, eat, sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sleep when you can.
So they don't have everything else, to worry about. I don't want to, minimize what they have to worry about. But when you're a CrossFit athlete and you're married and you've got a job and you've got, all these different things, I think it can be harder to pull out what exactly is CBD doing for me.
100%.
And I think that's why starting at the top with those athletes makes so much sense, because they can help deliver that message and say, this does work.
It's a stamp of validation, right?
For sure.
And we're in a big boom with cannabis and other things, but the social media boom and the influencer boom is just as big as what we're in. And to me, it was just an easy path to get to the masses. It's like, how do you know that this works? Well, give it to somebody that people believe are superhuman, perfectly in tune with their health, and they're seeing improvements from it. Then people say, okay, it's not just for epilepsy, it's not just for cancer, it's just for overall spectrum of health. So.
Right. Yep. So someone watches this or listens to this podcast, they go to purespectrumcbd.com. They don't know anything about it. They don't know what product to buy. How do you steer someone to, how do you get started? That sort of thing.
That's why we have some good sales reps here.
Yeah.
And they help. We're not doctors at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But we understand the product very well and understand our menu very well. So that'd be my first point of direction.
Okay.
Is contact somebody within our departments that help with sales, that help with customer service. We have 2 product experts. They usually can help put you on a good path on what.
So they can get in touch with them and say, I'm the 1 workout a day person, or I'm the, elite CrossFit athlete, and anywhere in between, or talk about personal issues that they're having.
Look for what their issues are and try to figure out what is the best remedy for those certain problems.
Yeah, and I think we have our product in all 50 states and 80 some different countries, and so our database of consumers is pretty dense.
Yeah.
Right, and so we have a lot of, data to back up things with.
Right.
And that's what our sales reps are really good for.
Yeah. And we really like that answer because we get asked general questions all the time, and for the longest time and still to this day refuse to give generic answers to something that's more complicated.
Right.
So it's awesome to hear you say, I'd like to know more about this person, what their goals are. We have a sales team that's able to do this, because it's just too easy to say, yep, it's this many milligram tincture, you order it, it'll be there in X amount of days, you'll be fine. So,
and we put a why behind every one of our products and our formulation. And so, we have stuff all the way from, your everyday person to your extreme athlete and extreme, elements. And so having a better understanding of why somebody's wanting to take it and their need, it's easily assessed that way.
Absolutely. So that sort of takes care of the, they can also ask the questions of how much of this should I be taking, when should I be taking it.
Right.
you can help personalize that a little bit.
Yeah, and you know, it's still legal to give somebody, you know, to tell them how much a recommended dose is. So we always call it, you know, we recommend a serving based on this data that we have.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you give an actual dosage recommendation, I need to have my doctor's.
Got it.
That white coat on.
Yeah, I don't have that. I didn't go to school long enough.
Yeah. So what I want to end with is just, I grew up in the type of family where it was the same concept, you know, weed is the devil, like that sort of thing. And I think it's important for people to know that you can create a new opinion as you get new information. You don't have to say, I'm not taking CBD because my parents decided to tell me not to take anything that had to do with it when I was 7 years old.
Right.
And we can make new decisions. And it's nice to know that there are a lot of people out there that are just so worried about that side of it, but that we can bring these stories to the table.
Just to say, what's funny is I was just having a conversation with your dad the other day at the gym. He was literally the same thing. He was talking about trying this product out, but the stipulation of being from, you know, growing up in Maine and going through DARE program probably as a kid, like just told like it's a gateway drug, you're gonna get, you know, you're gonna die if you do this type of thing. So we actually had a conversation the other day about, you know, do some research, learn about it first. Don't just because your father told you it was bad, doesn't mean you have to live that same life, because obviously the way things are now, there's way more information out there. There's more freedom. There's more, you know, you can draw from more sources than just DARE told me, officer so-and-so told me, like that's it kind of thing.
You know, and I kind of look at it like this. It's like we learn every generation we learn more, right? And so at one point in time we thought slavery was a good idea.
Yeah.
Obviously we know that's not a good idea. At one point in time we didn't think women should have a voting right.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like we learn as a society, and a lot of the masses are dictated on what the highest level of people are saying.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, it's like I understand a lot of these conversations, right? Because we grew up in that realm.
Exactly.
But being a person of change in principle, you know, I've been a part of that, and so it's an easier discussion to have.
Yeah.
And you can really pile on the facts to people where it's not an upsetting conversation anymore. It's like, oh, well, you did make some sense there.
I mean, that's something that we ask people to do all the time on this podcast, is keep an open mind and look at trying new things.
Yeah.
You know, the simplicity of walking 10 minutes 3 times a day, like, keep your mind open. Maybe that works. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Same thing with this conversation. You know, even if you've got this stigma in your brain attached to it, keep an open mind.
Yeah, and make an educated decision. Do a little bit of research. Don't believe into your programming that we've been programmed.
Just if you want to make change and you're, you know, obsessed with trying to make your life better, like in what you're doing currently isn't doing that, how else do you fix it without trying something new? Otherwise, you're just going to repeat that same cycle. So you have to put yourself out there and, you know, try new things. We try to encourage that constantly in this podcast. Like, do things you don't normally do, so you feel like you don't normally do.
That's right. I like that. It's good. I'm gonna steal that.
We're just honestly challenging people to form their own opinion. Really,
Yes.
You know, the group thing happens, and then you know, maybe you're 70, 80 years old, and you think back on a thought that you had, and it was really just because everyone else had that idea, and you're like, do you really want to be on that side of history? I mean, you named some really good examples of like a lot of people just went along with that, even though somewhere in there they knew it was wrong and they knew it was terrible, but they just went along with it anyways because it's social norms. It's just, you know, the way that
Have to be a disruptor.
Absolutely. I think we covered it. It's really exciting to get into this partnership with you guys. To be able to help deliver this message to the people that listen to our podcast and follow our programming, to be able to offer them a discount so that they can kind of, you know, take a look at things and try it for themselves. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys coming on out and being a deliverer for us. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, that was episode 34 of the Misfit Project, brought to you by Pure Spectrum. Head to purespectrumcbd.com, use the code Misfit, save some dough. And as always, if you like the podcast, if you like the content that we have, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with your friends, tell people about it, slide into those DMs and let us know what you want to learn about next. See you next time.